Hey guys, how you all doing? It's Will here once again, back for another fight card prediction. The very first card of 2016, UFC 195 from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. It's the UFC welterweight title is up for grabs as the champion Robbie Ruthless Lawler takes on the natural born killer Carlos Condit in a great fight to kick off the year. I will talk about the card in a second. First of all, I just want to say, if you think you're good at picking fights and picking winners of fights, I was in a competition this year, which is going into next year, called Toutmaster. $50 entry. You'll be facing some of the best guys on Twitter who think they're good at picking fights. And overall, it's just great fun. It's $50, I say, to get in, but it's just a great way of keeping track of your picks throughout the year. And you can win some big cash prizes, and this year's going to be even bigger than this year. So, if you need more information, come follow me on Twitter, come send me a message and I will point you in the right direction for that. Right, let's get into this fight card because there is great fights throughout the fight card. There's a great fight on the preliminary card, there's some really good fights on the prelims before the pay-per-view, and then the pay-per-view's got a lot of fun fights on it as well. So we're going to start down in the welterweight division. Starting off with Edgar Garcia against Sheldon Westcott. This not a good fight on a fight card which has good fights on it, but watching video on these two wasn't some of the best things you'll ever do in your lifetime, but nonetheless it had to be done. Edgar Garcia coming off that loss to Hector Urbina in UFC 188, he got caught in the choke and just got put out. Don't see too much with this guy. He likes to kind of stand up and throw shots. He does get taken down pretty easily. And overall, I think he really just kind of gets through with his toughness and his heart, because that's what he's got. But he did kind of quit kind of early against Hector Urbina, but he doesn't really stand out in any one aspect of MMA at all. But a very tough, gritty game fighter who comes forward and looks to bring an exciting fight against Sheldon Westcott here, who's also coming off a loss. We last saw this guy at UFC Poland against Peter Pawlik, and he was terrible in that one. Before that fight card prediction, I was actually thinking, well, Westcott is a level above Peter Pawlik, and in no way whatsoever did he even show that. He gassed out really badly. His striking defense was very poor. His gas tank was horrendous, and he got taken down far too easily. I mean, in the late second and the third round, he just wasn't defending any strikes whatsoever, except for defending them with his chin, which is never the best thing. Going back and forward in this one, I would like to pick Sheldon Westcott, but I just don't think he can get it done. Hopefully we can see a little bit. If you look at the fights before he came into the Ultimate Fighter, he was a very good fighter on the Canadian scene, and he was very fun to watch. Hopefully he can get back to that. I think injuries have played a part quite a lot in that from Sheldon Westcott. I think I might pick Edgar Garcia in this one. I just think he's got, we talk about the kind of toughness and the gas, along with the gas tank and the cardio. I think it's more on Edgar Garcia's side than it is Sheldon Westcott's. So that's why I'm just going to go with Edgar Garcia by a decision victory here. Moving on to the bantamweight division, another good fight. Low down in the card here to really get the card up and running after that first fight. Joe Soto against Michinori Tanaka. Now, we'll talk about Michinori Tanaka first. A guy who came into the UFC, pretty hyped up out of the GMMA scene. Seen a few of his fights. Very good, well-rounded, composed fighter. Doesn't really overexert himself too much and goes for... it's just very calm, and he takes his time in there and he gets his finishes along that. But he does have a lot of his wins by decision. He went to the UFC and he beat Roland Delorme in a really nice debut there. And then he went on to face Kyung Ho Kang in a great fight. It really was one of the best fights of 2014. It was a very fun fight. One fight of the night, but then got rescinded because he tested positive for drostanolone, I believe it was. So... I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong guy. I'm thinking of Brian Ortega. He got it rescinded because he tested positive for something here. But in that fight with Kyung Ho Kang, it was back and forward. It was very, very good on the ground. There was a lot of guys, a lot of sweeps in that fight. he got the mount position a couple of times, but he just couldn't get it done. Kyung Ho Kam was just the little bit better on the feet. He moved a lot more. He popped the jab out there, used his angles really well. He switched stances very, very good too to get the split decision victory there. First time we've seen him in about a year and a half. Interesting to see Tanaka back here, but he's got a tough opponent in Joe Soto here. Now we all know Joe Soto from beforehand. He was in Bellator. He was a Bellator champion. Came into the UFC, was supposed to face, I think it was Anthony Burchak. Something happened down there. I can't really remember what happened. But then he got elevated into the main event once Renan Barão pulled out, and he had about a day's notice against TJ Dillashaw, and the guy gave himself a very credible performance against TJ Dillashaw, pushed him, but inevitably he got found out late in the 5th round, and he got knocked out with that. Came back in his fight against Anthony Burchak, and from the minute I heard that fight was made, especially after Anthony Burchak's lost to Ian Entwistle, I just didn't think it was going to be a good night for him, and it showed, and he ate some big shots from Anthony Burchak and got knocked out in the 1st round. In this fight here, I can see this being a fight, a very, very much so a fight that Joe Soto can win. He can take Tanaka down if he can get inside the reach of Tanaka. I don't think the reach is overly big. Thinking about it now, if he can get inside and get a hold of Tanaka, I believe he can take him down. He can get into positions of dominance over Tanaka. Possibly could get a finish on him, but Tanaka is a very tough kid to put away. I like Joe Soto in this one. I like him by decision. Moving on to the headliner of the UFC Fight Pass prelims, and it's a brilliant fight, and it shouldn't be on the Fight Pass prelims. I know what they're doing with this one because it got taken off in November from Dublin. But we have Dustin the Diamond Poirier against Joseph Duffy. You can go back and watch my fights, predictions for UFC Dublin back in October. Back in that one there, I picked Dustin Poirier. I'm not going to change my pick now, especially after Joseph Duffy got pulled from the fight with a concussion. That only makes me want to bet more on Dustin Poirier. I will be betting on Dustin Poirier. Overall, Joseph Duffy is a brilliant all-around fighter. He's got great technical striking, really great movement. He changes stances very, very easily, and he's very flawless in doing that. And he has a ground game which is very, very dangerous. I just think this matchup is a little bit too quick against Dustin Poirier. I stood next to these. I've actually got a picture where I took a picture. I was in between Joe and Dustin, and I didn't think the height difference would be overly that much, but Joseph Duffy is a big, big guy for that 155 division. But I just believe in Dustin Poirier that little bit more, and especially after this injury that Joseph Duffy is coming off of. I mean, sparring a week before the fight, that's ridiculous training, and he should never be doing stuff like that. I'm not going to change my pick. I originally went with Dustin Poirier. I'm going to stick with Dustin Poirier. I think he can find a submission, maybe the Darce choke, maybe early in the 3rd round. It is a close fight. I'm a big fan of Joe Duffy, but I'm a huge fan of Dustin Poirier. I'm going to edge Dustin Poirier very, very closely, but would not be unhappy if Joseph Duffy won this fight because both guys are top class and they're great, great talent. So Dustin Poirier via early 3rd round Darce choke for me in that one there. Drew Dober against Scott Holtzman. I really like Scott Holtzman in this fight here. Drew Dober, I think this might be the last time we see him in the UFC. He's had a few kind of controversies in the UFC. That loss to Leandro Silva was utter bullshit. Then we had, he got choked out by Efrain Escudero. He's a guy, he's very gritty. He comes forward. He's got some decent striking. Not so much, he makes some silly decisions. You see him, his positioning sometimes is very, very bad. And he puts himself in positions where he can get caught with maybe some chokes. Strikes he really shouldn't be taking. And he can be doing that when he's in positions of dominance. So he could be on top of someone and he'll go to a position where he's given the position pretty much back to his opponent. So Scott Holtzman, he came in and he beat up Anthony Christodoulou for 2 rounds and then finally got the finish in the 3rd round. A nice prospect in this division. I think he's just a bit above where Drew Dober is. And I expect this kind of fight to take place more on the feet, but then Holtzman to take him down, be very dominant on the ground, move to superior positions, hit him with elbows, beat him up. But I think Drew Dober is a very tough fighter, a very game fighter, and he's a hard guy to kind of put away. So I'm going to go Scott Holtzman via unanimous decision there. Moving on to the women's strawweights division. Now this is the fight I'm actually really looking forward to seeing. Justine Kish makes a UFC debut against Nina Ansaroff. Justine Kish, you would maybe recognise the name. She was on the Tough show, but she didn't fight in the Tough show. She had a really bad knee injury, and we haven't seen her since the end of that show, probably about a year and a bit ago now, and we haven't heard much from her. But if you haven't seen Justine Kish fight, you really should go check her out, because she is a really fun fighter to watch. I say her last fight was fought maybe a year and a half ago, and she fought Randa Marcos. Now we all know who Randa Marcos is. She just lost to Karolina Kowalkiewicz in Orlando. But you watch that fight with Randa Marcos, and man, she's very, very, very fun to watch. She throws a lot of fun strikes. She's got the Muay Thai background. She's a former Muay Thai world champion. Throws knees, elbows. She really runs into her leg kicks. She throws spinning back elbows, which she caught Marcos with a couple of times. And the first 2 rounds in that fight, she really beat Marcos up. She's hit her with a beautiful elbow against the cage, split her open there, and was just dominant. She was coming in with standing elbows, like when Marcos was back against the cage. She came in and she just unloaded with elbows straight against there and slashed her open. Probably lost the 3rd round of that fight, got taken down a little bit too easy, so the gas tank might be a little bit iffy. But I'm very, very interested to see her here. Nina Ansaroff, on the other hand, she lost in a UFC debut to Juliana Lima. She got controlled completely. She's a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo, but she gasses really badly. She was supposed to face Rose Namajunas back in Houston at 192, I believe it was. On the day of the weigh-in, she contracted the flu, had to pull out from that fight there. I just like Justine Kish. I'm really looking forward to seeing her, and I think she can get a finish in this one. I'm not the biggest fan of the skill set of Nina Ansaroff. I don't think she's as tough as some of the girls in the UFC are, and I like Justine Kish. It'll be interesting to see, because she's been off a long time, and this injury was a big, big injury. But she is very dynamic on the feet in there, and I think she can stop this fight. So I'm going to go Justine Kish, 2nd round, TKO, beating her up on the ground with some heavy, heavy elbows. Welterweight division, Kyle Noke against Alex Morono. Alex Morono, I've known a little bit about him. He fought in Legacy for the last couple of years, and a very well-rounded fighter. I think if this fight was over, if he had more time to prepare for this fight, I would probably pick Alex Morono, because he is very well-rounded. Some great submissions. He's got some one-punch knockout power, and he can. But this is against guys who are on the regional kind of territories that I'm talking about, that he's one-punch KOing. But I think he can bring that, especially against Kyle Noke in this one. See, Kyle Noke, coming off that big win over Peter Sabota, I didn't see that coming, I'll be 100% honest. If you were to give me all the money in the world, I would put it on probably Peter Sabota. He came out and he unloaded a big kick to the ribs of Sabota, and obviously broke some ribs down there and finished it off with a couple of shots. Had a win before that against Jonathan Webb, which I don't think he won that fight, but he got the nod anyway. Any other fight, he was supposed to be against Kelvin Gastelum in this one, I would have picked Kelvin Gastelum big. I still think Alex Morono has a big chance here, but the only thing I don't like about Morono is just December 22nd, he found out about he was fighting in this card, and that's a bit too short notice for me, so I'm going to go Kyle Noke via a decision in this one, but I may throw some money on Alex Morono, because I think he has a big chance there. In the featured bout of the prelims, we have Michael Mayday McDonald making his long weight return. Great fighter against Masenori Kanehara. Kanehara, this is a great fight, just saying, for Michael McDonald to come back to. Kanehara is a really decent veteran. He is very well rounded everywhere. He has good grappling skills. He has some knockout power once he accumulates his shots and hits you with them, but he's very kind of stationary and very much in your face, doesn't move with any angles. He's right there and you can hit him. He lost a very, very close fight with Rani Yaya in San Diego back in July. That was a close fight. I thought it was a really exciting fight, but I did think Yaya was always just that step ahead. But he has beat fighters in the past. He beat Kid Yamamoto, he beat the Korean Zombie back in the day, so he is a top fighter and he's beat some good guys, so he's always a guy he's always going to be right there. But I think in the return with Michael Mayday McDonald here, I think it's brilliant to see him back in the bantamweight division. We haven't seen this guy in well over 2 years, since his last loss to Uriah Faber. He lost out to Renan Barão. That probably, the UFC title shot was way too early in this guy's young career. Beat Brad Pickett with in a really fun looking fight there. Got my submission, I think it was, if I remember right. But this guy, very dynamic on the feet. He's just well-rounded everywhere. Well, I think, both fighters are well-rounded, but Michael McDonald is here, Kanehara is down here. So there's a very different gap between these two. I think the speed on Michael McDonald's side will be too much for Kanehara. I think Michael McDonald can finish this fight, and I believe he will do it in the second round. So I'm going to go submission in the second round for Michael McDonald, but he is coming off a 2-year layoff. He has had injuries, so it'll be interesting to see what he looks like and what he's been practicing while he's been off. But I do like Michael McDonald, and I do like him via submission. Moving on to the main card now, we have the very first fight in the lightweight division for UFC 195. We have Abel Killer Trujillo against Tony Sims. Now, both guys coming off losses. Let's get out of the road. Tony Sims coming off a pretty... He did get dominated in that fight against Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Before that, he beat Steve Montgomery. He got hit with a couple of knees in that one, but he showed some really good technical boxing skills as well. He has some wrestling chops to his name as well. Fights out of Colorado, I think, with like TJ Dillashaw, your Brandon Thatch. The Elevation Fight Team, I think it is out there. Neil Magny as well. Kat Zingano. Well-rounded fighter. Decent skills. He's got a good chin on him. And comes forward. He kind of moves. He throws a nice left hook followed by a nice right kick, I've noticed. And but sometimes he moves back with his chin in there, and you can't do that against somebody like Abel Trujillo, because he throws bombs, and even if he doesn't catch you with a full-on big bomb, you're going to feel it. So that's something you need to watch out for here. He needs to circle a little bit more, because Trujillo's going to stand there and just throw bombs. So if he can get off to the sides and throw leg kicks, maybe mix in with takedowns, because Trujillo has been known to be taken down fairly easily in the past. We've seen against Khabib, he got taken down easily, and his last fight against Gleison Tibau, he got taken down easily, and he got submitted in that one, but that was a bullshit stoppage, because Trujillo was moving, he wasn't going out, and we've seen since then that Gleison Tibau's failed drugs test. We're probably not going to see Gleison Tibau for 2 years, if not ever again, because he says he's at like 32. I don't think he's 32. I think he's closer to 40 than what he's saying. But Trujillo, we all know what this guy's about. He wants to keep this fight on the ground, and he wants to throw big leather. We've seen against Jamie Varner. It's still one of my all-time favourite knockouts. These guys were thrown on the feet. It was back and forward, and Abel Trujillo just threw the kitchen sink and knocked Jamie Varner out. It was one of the most epic knockouts. I completely lost my shit once that fight. If you've seen what I was like for UFC 194, my reaction video, I was like that for Abel Trujillo when he knocked out Jamie Varner. Coming off that loss to Gleison Tibau, I think he's lost 2 in a row if I remember right. I can't remember who the other loss was to. He needs this fight, and I was originally thinking, why is Abel Trujillo the favourite in this one? Did a little bit more study on Tony Sims, and I can see why he is. I'm going to go with Abel Trujillo. I think this is a big fight for him here, and I think he can catch Tony Sims. Steve Montgomery caught him. I know Montgomery's a long, lengthy fighter, but Trujillo, if he catches you with something, you go down. So I'm going to go Abel Trujillo via a knockout at the end of round number 1. Moving on to the featherweight division. This is a great fight, and it's pretty much a great fight because I'm looking forward to seeing Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega faces off against Diego Brandao. Diego Brandao, 2 wins in a row. Jimmy Hettis and Katsunori Kakuno, both in the first round, in rounds that he comes out his most strongest. Brian Ortega's last 2 fights in UFC, he won. He beat Mike De La Torre with a beautiful rear naked choke, which got rescinded because he was the one that tested positive for drostanolone, which is a little bit of a worry considering the guy was only 23 years old and he shouldn't be on shit like that at that age. And he lost. He got that turned to a no contest. He's got a 9-0 record. Then he came out against Thiago Tavares. Now I watched this fight twice last night, and this guy, he absolutely butchered Thiago Tavares. Came out, got taken down very easily, far too easily against Tavares, and I thought, oof, that's going to be like, Tavares is really savvy when it goes on the ground. He looks for submissions, very heavy, but he butchered Thiago Tavares from his back, split him open. I think he had a massive cut above his left eye, and was just beating the shit out of him from the bottom. Got back to the feet, threw some nice, he switches his stances a lot, throws a lot of leg kicks, throws a lot of long left jabs, and he beat up Tavares. Going into the third round, he hit him with a big right hand, took him down to the ground. If I remember right, he got the full mount, and then he pounded out Thiago Tavares. Now, Thiago Tavares is a very game veteran, a tough guy. How I see this fight going, Diego Brandao is going to come out like he always does, fast, looking to knock you out. We've seen it in Conor McGregor come out to try and do it there, but you can't do that against big caliber opponents like he did with Poirier and that, because they will weather the storm and then they will catch you like they did. I like Brian Ortega in this one, big. I think halfway through this fight, Ortega's going to get him to the ground, he's going to submit him. Brian Ortega, first round submission for me, if not in the second round. Excuse me. Moving on. Whoa, what a fight this is. Albert Einstein Tumenov against Lorenz de Monsoon Larkin. Been watching footage on these guys for the last couple of days during the Christmas break here, and this is a phenomenal fight. Both guys known for their stand-up. Lorenz Larkin, great foot speed, great hand speed, in and out. We've seen that in his fight with Santiago Ponzinibbio, getting a bit of firefight, and he came out on top in that one. Where Albert Tumenov, on the other hand, he has all the power. I believe. I think he has he definitely has the more chance of a one-shot knockout than what Lorenz Larkin has. Larkin, coming off that win over Santiago Ponzinibbio, was just really good in that fight. He knocked out John Howard before that, and he came out, hit Ponzinibbio with some big right hands. We've seen what Ponzinibbio's like. He will engage in fights like that. We've seen it with Andrei Stahl this month, I'm already thinking of him in 2016, that he hit him with some big shots, took him out. Tumenov coming off that win, big knockout win over Alan Jouban. Jouban just hasn't got the chin to live up with Albert Tumenov. He kind of plants his feet a little bit more, throws some vicious high kicks, throws some beautiful body shots as well. The way I see it is power versus speed, and the accumulation of shots that Larkin may put on Albert Tumenov here. Excuse me. Is for all to see. I like the underdog in this one. I think the accumulation of shots, getting in and out against Albert Tumenov, is going to take its toll here. I don't see too many people picking Lorenz Larkin, but I'm going to go with the underdog here. I think he's looked fantastic since he went to 170. Tumenov is a guy you need to watch out for, because he can knock you out like that and you could be looking at the lights. But I like the accumulation of strikes here from Lorenz Larkin. I'm going to go Lorenz Larkin via decision victory here. Next up, co-main event, Stipe Miocic against Andrei Arlovski for probably the next shot at Cain Velasquez or Fabrizio Verdun when they face off in February. Andrei Arlovski, this guy was in Dublin as a guest fighter, and I have never met a fighter like Andrei Arlovski, who is physically intimidating but puts off a really bad vibe about himself. Was not fan friendly whatsoever, but his fighting skills are phenomenal. He's a great fighter to watch. Against Arlovski here, I think that he needs to try and get it done early, because Miocic is a tough fighter all around. Excuse me again. And really looks for that one-shot knockout. We've seen it against Travis Brown. He came out, threw some big shots, and then nearly got taken out himself. He kind of risked a little bit too much there, but eventually did get the finish. Stipe Miocic was supposed to fight in Dublin. Was looking forward to that. Got pulled. But we've seen this fight against Mark Hunt that this guy is just really very well rounded. He's got a good chin. Took some shot from Hunt, but he beat Mark Hunt's ass when he took him to the ground. A Golden Gloves boxer, good wrestling. I've been going back and forward in this fight pick. Arlovski probably should have lost his last fight to Frank Mir. Let's get that out there. I'm going to go with another underdog here. I'm going to go with Andrei Arlovski. I think that Miocic can still be taken out, and we've seen that against Stefan Struve. I know that was a few years ago, but I like Arlovski to maybe put him against the cage and unload some shots. I think he's looked very good since he's come to the UFC, except for that last fight, and Brendan Schaub. Andrei Arlovski for me via TKO in the second round. No, early third round. TKO. Okay, my apologies again. Main event time. What a fight this is. Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit for the UFC welterweight division. Excuse me, my throat's going. I don't know about you guys, but I've been going 100% back and forward in this one. And literally as I'm sitting here, I am siding with one guy, but it's by tomorrow I could easily be with the other guy here. Toss-up fight. Robbie Lawler's coming off that win against McDonald. What can you say about that fight? It's probably the fight of the year in my opinion. Not got that 5th round stoppage. In your face, never goes away. Will always be there. Hits you with some heavy strikes. Carlos Condit, the natural born killer. Last time against Thiago Alves, got hit with some huge shots. Some big shots that he shouldn't get hit with, but came forward and took out Thiago Alves. I can see this fight just being an all-out war on the feet. And when it comes to that, you've got the power of Robbie Lawler against the kind of versatility of Carlos Condit. And excuse me. And with that, I like Condit with his flying knees and his head kicks and stuff like that. But I'm going to go with Carlos Condit. I think he is the fighter that I've kind of been leaning to most since this fight was made, even when they were going to be fighting in Australia. I don't think there's much in it. I won't be betting this fight. I know Condit is the underdog, but I have to go with my original gut feeling, and I'm going to go with Carlos Condit. So that's my picks here for UFC 195. Come follow me on Twitter, WillMartin7MMA, and I'll be back for UFC Boston, Cruz versus Dillashaw for the title there. I apologise about my coughing, my throat has been going for the last few days. I think it's just about to go. Come follow me on Twitter, WillMartin7MMA. Best fight picks, half the battle. Come follow us on Twitter, follow him on here for great interviews with fighters. And if you need more information about Toutmaster 2016, come and speak to me and I will send you in the right direction. I will see you for UFC Boston next week or so. Take care.